Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Museum of Lost Keyboards. The collection is owned by Sir Samuel Holt, chairman of Double Helix Insurance, and himself a keen player on the Onde Maintenant. We hope, when your visit is complete, you will share Sir Samuel's belief that the sole purpose of man is music, and that the keyboard is as a ribcage to the soul. And we start our tour at the entrance to the first gallery. Here is perhaps the most valuable instrument in the collection, a 1754 piano made entirely from diamonds. It was commissioned by Prince Gregor Esterhazy for his bride, who died from the shock of receiving it. It is made from 29,000 diamonds and is now very rarely played manually, since the sound is excruciating. In 1944, the diamond piano was installed on the 50th floor atrium of the Rockefeller Center in New York. Rockefeller was a poor player and adapted the piano to play sheets of piano roll only he could afford, using parchment made from crushed and stiffened truffles. Nestling alongside the diamond piano on a tiny plinth is Exhibit 2, Glenn Gould's 2-inch solid spherical piano, made in 1963. The instrument was bought by Gould in 1961 as a full-size conventional grand Steinway. The Canadian perfectionist was immediately dissatisfied with the sound and began removing some and then all of the keys. Troubled by the dimensions, he also sheared the instrument with a lathe, arriving at the more harmonious spherical shape it is in now. Though the piano could now make no noise whatsoever, Gould professed himself delighted that at least it couldn't make the wrong noise. The audio recording is of Gould making the final adjustments to the piano. To be fully comfortable while crouching down to play, Gould often shaved his legs and wore no shoes, in the conventional sense of the word. To your right is a harpsichord made from snow. It was first built in Stockholm in 1729, but melted 2 hours later. Using his original plans, its builder, T.M. Hoffelpfeif, built a snow reconstruction within minutes, which he then placed on a suburban glacier to preserve it for summer recitals. The harpsichord is now kept at sub-zero temperatures on the top of a granite column, towering 20,000 feet above sea level. The sound is utterly delightful, but the low temperature makes it impossible to play, since most pianists' fingers stick to the keyboards, and frostbite ruins their careers forever. There is a recording of Wanda Landowska playing Bach wearing mittens, but the playing is, for all Landowska's mastery of the Baroque repertoire, singularly inept. If the snow harpsichord is played at room temperature in a concert hall, the player has just 20 minutes before it turns to water. You will notice, as you wander through the first gallery, that it is completely dark. Although the museum's benefactor, Sir Samuel Holt, had perfect eyesight, he never used it, often working at night or under beds, and it was his express stipulation that his keyboards be exhibited entirely in blackout, encouraging the visitor to listen more carefully and think naught of the tempting sweetmeats of belighted things. Remember, though, that anyone who falls over an instrument will be fined and possibly interrogated. And now on to our second gallery, which houses living and extinct instruments. All that's left of the piano-shaped creature on your right is its bone pedals and strings, here preserved in a jar of formaldehyde. It's thought the pianigator lived 14,000 years ago on Easter Island, where fossilized keyboards have been retrieved from the shoreline. Paleomusicologists think the creature's two extended forelimbs allow it to play itself, curving the limbs under its belly to pluck a row of black and white nipples. Using DNA samples, the paleomusicological team at the University of Southern California have recreated the sound of the pianigator in its natural habitat. Next to the exhibit is a bucket of piano milk. Be careful. On the western wing of this gallery is an overhead photograph and working model of a naturally occurring piano, found in the forests of Sri Lanka. This phenomenon is very rare, and only happens when a row of 44 elephants form an exact straight line, their tusks becoming a neat row of 88 ivory keys, 800 meters long. The elephant lineup has to take place backing onto a teak forest, so overgrown that the branches and leaves act as an enclosed chamber, magnifying the sound that would be made by the elephants if anything dropped on their tusks from a great height. The only known instance of this was in 1893, when just such an arrangement of elephants was hit by a meteor, creating what many local witnesses have said was the best sound ever. Please move on now. If there were any light, the visitor would notice the walls are decorated with pastel drawings of the very last clavichord being hunted by dogs. Sir Samuel is glad this kind of butchery now can't be seen by the naked eye. We move into the chamber of pioneer keyboards. The first instrument is this fine example of a 1952 Westinghouse Neutronium, the world's first nuclear forte piano. The Westinghouse's keyboard and pedals are a standard size, while the main body of the forte piano houses a nuclear generator. The player struck keys manually, which in turn caused a set of hammers to hit the strings, each hammer being launched by a small nuclear device. Pedals allowed the player to control the half-life of each explosion. The Neutronium on display here was tested in the Nevada desert by Michelangelo. Moving round to the small antechamber at the back, the visitor comes upon Sir Samuel Holt's most prized possession. It's the 1941 Brodmann piano, owned by Stalin. Stalin was a keen music lover and adapted this piano so the keys sent pulses of electricity along wires connected to the open brains of members of the bourgeoisie, causing them to scream tunefully in pain. Stalin would often stay up late to hear screams organized in rhythmic patterns by the Soviet Union's greatest composers. Shostakovich once wrote that, "My sonata for howling agitators, though not without artistic merit, is perhaps the most shameful thing I've ever done." It is Sir Samuel's contention that music transcends the basest of contexts. Even when screamed out, as here by actual left-wing volunteers, it is still inexplicably beautiful. Visitors will notice as they leave this gallery that they are gradually coming round to Sir Samuel's point of view. Move now. We arrive at the largest keyboard instrument in the collection, an organ built from cathedrals. It is thought that 34 cathedrals from southern France were reconfigured brick by brick to make this majestic vaulted specimen. The organ took 5 centuries to construct at a cost of 15,000 lives and the complete economic ruin of southwestern Europe. A small school for trainee choristers has been housed in one of its pipes since 1839. The sound of the organ is very beautiful, not unlike a squadron of angels refueling in a church while in a good mood. As we enter the next room, you will notice a life-size model of the ZZ300 Spikodreft, the first piano to be sent into space. The instrument comes equipped with a piano roll mimicking mankind's most representative sound, a mixture of desire and regret counterpointed by helplessness. Behind it is Hammerstein's 1934 keyboard train, a locomotive keyboard that drove across America at speeds of up to 130 miles an hour, delivering sheet music to Oregon. Steam powers the keys, which in turn drives the pistons. The faster the playing, the greater the speed. We now enter the room of smart keyboards, starting with an early example of a forte piano that only plays when you've got something to hide. It was built by the great Alpheus Babcock in 1814. Babcock was determined to perfect his instruments, and in the early 1800s made keys that were so precisely weighted, shaped, crafted, and balanced, they became powerfully sensitive to the slightest variations in touch, even to the small, almost imperceptible changes in heart rate and blood pressure brought on by the keeping of a closely guarded secret. So anyone playing at Babcock unwittingly let on whether he was concealing inner thoughts and fears. This model was very popular in the drawing rooms of Regency England, though it led to the breakdown of many aristocratic marriages. It is used today to extract information from the inmates of Guantanamo Bay. Babcock's smart pianos were further modified in the early 1900s to become touch-sensitive to specific emotional states. A good example of this is the 1934 Stug clavicizer, the first electronic keyboard to know when its player was wasting its time. The clavicizer calculates the technical ability of a player from any sweat he deposits when opening the lid. The instrument will then only play phrases it knows will be played well, and declines to perform anything it believes will be below the musical standard it considers acceptable. Come. In this room, you will see the only known example of a self-perpetuating fugue. The fugue has at least 150 parts and has been going continuously on this instrument since 1687. It may never end. No one knows who composed it, though it has trace elements of Bach, Scarlatti, Debussy, Ligeti, and Haydn. Over 100 generations are performed in the fugue, and the instrument on which it is being played has been repaired so many times, its entire structure is completely different from the one with which it started. The fugue itself is said by experts to have no musical merit whatsoever. And now, we come to the final keyboard in the exhibition, and the only one to be illuminated. It's the 1704 Bosendorfer Amity, generally considered to be the most perfect piano in the world. 15 major land battles have been fought over the Bosendorfer, which was finally brought to Paris by Napoleon after the sacking of Vienna in 1809. It was said the French emperor fell in love with it so much it distracted him from the planning of his Russian campaign in 1812. Rumor has it the sound of the Bosendorfer is so wonderful that anyone listening will find all further sensory experience disappointing and unnecessary. Normally, players now only play memories of the sound, and listeners listen only to the echoes. That is what you will hear now. But come, Sir Samuel would like to invite you to play properly. Seize the moment. Validate your life. It may interest the visitor to note that Napoleon spent most of his days in exile on the island of St. Helena, plotting to get back to the Bosendorfer. He made hundreds of tunnel diagrams with his blood. Exit from the museum is forbidden to those who do not sit and play this keyboard. Play now, then leave for the streets, and do not come back again.
This down.